Welcome to my channel. I hope you like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to crochet this super easy bean stitch baby hat. You can make it for boys and girls, and you can also make it all in one color or make it in two colors just like I did. This little hat is for 0 to 3 months, but you can easily make it from a newborn size and up to an adult size using standard size measurements that I'm going to provide you with here in this tutorial and in the information box below. Now, as always, if you prefer written pattern, check out my Etsy shop. I'll leave the link to my Etsy shop in the information box below. Thank you so much for your support. Now, let's get started, but don't forget to subscribe, activate the notifications bell to all notifications so that YouTube can recommend my videos. And if you like this tutorial, please hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching. Okay, to make this little hat, I'll be using this 4mm crochet hook, and I'll be using this number 3 yarn. You can also use DK weight or A-ply. Now, we're going to be following some standard size measurements. These are the two measurements that we're going to need for this little hat: the width of the crown and the total length. We're going to start with the width of the crown because the little hat starts here at the top. So I'm going to be making the 0 to 3 months, and these are the measurements that I need to make sure that my crown has before I continue with the total length. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, you can, since you can make this little hat from a preemie size and up to an adult size. So these are the two measurements that we're going to need. So let's get started here. So the first thing to do is we're going to make a magic circle. I'm going to start with the blue yarn here. So I'm going to just wrap the yarn around my fingers like this and hold it there. Now insert the hook right through this circle and grab a loop. Now I'm going to chain one, and here I'm going to start with a pattern. I'm going to start with these 5 bean stitches. I already have lots of tutorials with this stitch pattern, the bean stitch. I'll leave the links down here in the information box, or just click the little lamp next to my channel name. It'll take you to my main channel, and you'll find those tutorials there. So here, to begin with the first row, I grab the loop, chain 1. Now I'm going to make my first bean stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook through this circle, grab a loop, yarn over, grab a loop, yarn over, grab a loop. We're going to yarn over 3 times, and this is going to give us 7 loops on the hook. That's 2, 4, 6, 7. Now to close this bean stitch, you're just going to grab a loop and pull through all 7 loops. Now you're going to chain 2. Here's the first bean stitch. Now yarn over again and repeat the same thing. Grab a loop, yarn over, grab a loop, yarn over, grab a loop. 7 loops on the hook. Make sure that these loops are nice and loose so that your hook does not get caught in any of those loops. There. Chain 2. Now repeat the same thing. Make another bean stitch, yarn over, grab a loop, yarn over, grab a loop, yarn over, grab a loop. 7 loops on the hook, close, chain 2, yarn over, grab a loop, yarn over, grab a loop, yarn over, grab a loop. 7 loops, close, chain 2. One more. In total we're going to make 5, so one last time. Close, chain 2. And here's my 5th bean stitch. Now to close this circle, all you do is just pull your yarn so that this circle here closes up. Now I have 5 bean stitches. I'm going to finish the row by going on top of the first bean stitch, so right here where we have this chain, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch, but I'm going to be changing yarn color so that my little hat looks like this. So to do the hat just in one color, all you need to do is just go on top, grab a loop, and join with a slip stitch. And to start the next row, you're going to go into this first chain 2 space and make a slip stitch. That's if you're only going to make the hat in one color. I'm going to make mine in 2 colors like I said, so what I'm going to do here instead is, after I chain 2, I'm going to insert my hook on top of the first bean stitch. Into that chain, insert your hook, and here you're going to introduce the new color. I'm going to use the white. So with both colors now, you're going to grab a loop like this. So grab a loop with both colors and join the second color here. Now I'm going to continue with the white yarn. So all I'm going to do here is go into the first chain 2 space and grab a loop and make a slip stitch. Now pull the blue yarn so that that stitch there closes along with the white, and now with the white I'm going to chain 1. Now for the second row, into each one of the chain 2 spaces, which we have 5 here, I'm going to make 2 bean stitches. So yarn over, insert your hook, grab a loop, yarn over, grab a loop, yarn over, grab a loop. 7 loops on the hook, close, chain 1. In the second row and all the rows to follow, we only chain 1. Now yarn over and repeat the same thing. Make another bean stitch. There. I have 7 loops, chain 1. Now here, place a stitch marker to mark the center here of these 2 bean stitches. Now into each one of the remaining chain 2s, you're going to repeat the same thing. You're going to make 2 bean stitches. Close, chain 1, and then 1 more bean stitch in this chain 2 space. Chain 1. And before you continue, mark this chain between these 2 bean stitches. Now continue along and make 2 bean stitches in the remaining chain 2 spaces, which we have 3. 1, 2, 3. So you're going to make 2, 2, 2, so that at the end of this second row we finish with 10 bean stitches. Continue. I'll meet you at the end. I'm here at the end of this second row. In this row we did 2 bean stitches into each chain 2 space. Now I have 10 bean stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and I have placed stitch markers here to mark these 2 bean stitches. So right in the middle of 2 bean stitches I have a stitch marker. Now you should also note that you have 10 chain 1 spaces. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Here at the end I have my last chain. So here to finish, I'm just going to go on top of the first bean stitch, so right here, and I'm going to grab a loop with both colors. I already showed you how to continue with only one color. You're just going to grab a loop as well, just using the one color, and make a slip stitch. So now I'm going to continue with the blue, and with the blue I'm going to go into the first chain space, so right here, and I'm going to remove this stitch marker here, and I'm going to make a slip stitch with just the second color here, the blue. Now pull the white and continue with the blue now. Now, since this here is a corner, we're going to call these corners because in each corner you're going to be making your increases. In this chain spaces between the corners, like here, you're only going to make 1. So since this is a corner stitch, I'm going to make 2 bean stitches. So here, chain 1. Now this here is a corner, so I'm going to make 2. This is where we're going to be making our increases so that the circle here gets bigger. There's 1, and here's the second one. Chain 1. Always chain 1. Now return your stitch marker to mark this corner, and in the next chain space, so right here, only make 1 bean stitch. Chain 1. Now we have the second corner. Remove that stitch marker, and here you're going to make 2 bean stitches. Chain 1 and return your stitch marker to mark that corner, and we have the next chain space. This is not a corner, so just make 1. chain one. We have the next corner where we have the stitch marker. So here you know that you need to make 2 bean stitches. Put your stitch marker back. Now that's how you're going to continue. So into the next chain space, you're going to make 1. Where we have the stitch marker, you're going to make 2. Then 1, 2, 1, and then we're going to finish the 3rd row. I'll meet you at the end of this row. I'm here at the end of the 3rd row. I have a total of 15 bean stitches. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You should also have 15 chain 1 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Here's my last chain. Now to finish this 3rd row, all you do is just go on top of the 1st stitch here and grab a loop with both colors like this and make a slip stitch. Now I'm going to continue with the white, so into the next chain space, which is this one here where I have the stitch marker, make a slip stitch. I'm going to pull the blue yarn here so that that stitch there closes. And now remove this stitch marker, chain 1, and here, since this is a corner stitch where we make our increases, remember where we have the stitch markers, that's where you make your increases. So you always make 2 bean stitches here. So make my first bean stitch here and 1 more. Chain 1 and then return your stitch marker. Now in between these 2 stitch markers we have 2 chain 1 spaces, so all you do is just make 1 bean stitch into each one. Chain 1, and here's the next one. Chain 1, and now we have the next stitch marker, so here you make 2 bean stitches. Return your stitch marker. And we have 2 chain spaces. Make 1 bean stitch on each chain space. Now we have the next stitch marker. Make an increase, so 2 bean stitches here. Return your stitch marker and then continue in the same way. You're going to make 1 here, then 2. 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. I'll meet you at the end of this 4th row. I'm here at the end of the 4th row. I have a total of 20 bean stitches, and I also have 20 chain 1 spaces. Here's my last chain space, and here are my 5 stitch markers. So here to finish this row, I'm going to go on top of the 1st bean stitch, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch like this with both colors. Now I'm going to leave the white yarn there and continue with the blue. So to begin the 5th row, I'm going to go into the 1st chain space, which is this one here where I have the stitch marker, and here I'm going to make a slip stitch. Pull the white yarn here. Now chain 1, and in this space here I need to make 2 bean stitches because that is where I had my stitch marker. There, chain 1, return your stitch marker to mark these 2 bean stitches, Now we have 1, 2, 3 chain spaces. You're going to make 1 bean stitch into each one. There, now I have the next stitch marker here, make 2 bean stitches. Return your stitch marker and continue and make 1, 1, 1, then 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, and then finish the 5th row. At the end of this 5th row, I'm going to have 25 bean stitches. So continue, finish this 5th row. I'll meet you at the end. I'm here at the end of this 5th row. I have a total of 25 bean stitches. I have my 5 stitch markers here at the end. So as it is, let's measure this right in the center like this. It's measuring a little bit less than 4 inches or under 10 centimeters. According to my measurements here, this needs to measure for 0 to 3 months between 4 and 4.5 inches or 10 to 11.5 centimeters. It's not quite there yet, so I'm going to make 1 more row. If you're making this for preemie size, then I would recommend you measure this because you probably already have the measurement that you need. So here to finish this 5th row, just go on top of the first bean stitch right here where I have the chain, and I'm going to grab a loop with both colors here and make a slip stitch. Now I'm going to continue with the white, and here's the first chain space where we have the stitch marker. So insert your hook right there and make a slip stitch with the white. Now chain 1, and here I need to make 2 bean stitches because this is an increase corner. Here's 1, chain 1, and 2, chain 1. Put your stitch marker back in there. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 chain spaces. Make 1 bean stitch in each one. Here's the next stitch marker, make 2 here. Return your stitch marker. And continue and make 1 bean stitch into the next 1, 2, 3, 4 chain spaces. And that's how you're going to continue for this 6th row. At the end of this row, we're going to have 30 bean stitches. So we're increasing 5 extra bean stitches at the end of each row. And if you're making this for any other size, you're just going to continue in the same way and increase this part, which is the crown, until you have the measurement for the size that you're making. So finish this 6th row, you're going to make 2 here, then 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, and so on. I'll meet you at the end of this 6th row. I'm here at the end of the 6th row. I have a total of 30 bean stitches and I have 30 chain 1 spaces. I have my 5 stitch markers here. As it is, I have the measurement that I need for the 0 to 3 month size. Here's the measurement. It's measuring about 4.5 inches or about 11.5 centimeters. So I have the measurement that I need for the width of the crown, which is 10 to 11.5 centimeters. If you're making it for any other size, you're going to continue and increase in the same way that I showed you until you have the measurement that you need for any of the other sizes. Like I said, you can use any yarn width with any hook size and just continue with the same sequence. I have the measurement for the 0 to 3 months, so all I need to do now is just join here to the beginning on top of the first bean stitch with a slip stitch. I'm going to continue with the blue yarn. Now I'm going to remove all of these stitch markers because we don't need them anymore. From here on, we're just going to continue with the length of the baby hat, which is the second measurement here. So for 0 to 3 months, it needs to measure between 5 and 5.5 inches, or 12.5 centimeters to 14 centimeters. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave about 2 centimeters for the brim. Let's see, which is about an inch. Yes, about 2 centimeters. So you're going to continue until you have about 2 centimeters, or about an inch left from the total height. So for me, I'm going to stop making rows until I have about 4.5 inches, or about 10 centimeters left. So here, to continue with the 7th row, go into the first chain space and make a slip stitch. And now I'm going to chain 1, and here I'm going to make my first bean stitch. I'm only going to make 1, so into each chain space, just make 1 bean stitch, so that at the end of this 7th row, you're left with 30 bean stitches as well. And this is how we're going to continue now, just working with 30 bean stitches. Here's the next corner. So here you're just going to make 1 bean stitch and continue and make 1 bean stitch into each chain space until we finish this 7th row. Continue like this. I'll meet you at the end of this row. I'm here at the end of the 7th row. I have 30 bean stitches. I have 30 chain spaces as well. So here's my last chain space. I'm going to go on top of the first stitch here, the first bean stitch, and I'm going to join the new color. So make a slip stitch here, and now with the white I'm going to continue and make row 8. So you always go into the first chain space and make a slip stitch. Now once here, you're going to chain 1 and then make your first bean stitch into this first chain space, and then continue on and do the same thing all around. At the end of this row, we're going to have 30 bean stitches, and you're always going to repeat the same thing. You're going to finish each row by going here on top of the first bean stitch, make a slip stitch, and then another slip stitch into the next chain space. So continue and just repeat this 7th row all around until you have the measurement minus about an inch or 2 centimeters for the brim. I'm not sure how many rows I'm going to do here, but continue watching. I will let you know exactly how many rows I'm going to do for my little hat. So I will meet you at the end of that row. I have done a total of 12 rows. From here up to here, there's 12 rows, and it's measuring about 11.5 centimeters, which is about 4.5 inches. Now, I still have about an inch left, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to finish this row and then start on the brim. For the smaller sizes, I'd say from preemie size up to, I don't know, 24 months, I would recommend that you only leave about an inch. But if you're making it for bigger sizes, from a toddler size up to an adult size, maybe about an inch and a half or 2 would be fine. So here, to finish, we're going to go on top of the first bean stitch, and I'm going to join the new color here, make a slip stitch, and now with the blue yarn, I'm going to go into the first chain space and make a slip stitch. Now here I'm going to chain 1, and right into this space here I'm going to make 2 half double crochets. Into the next chain space, make 2 half double crochets, and into the third, make 1. So this is how we're going to continue. Make 2 half double crochets in the next 2 chain spaces, and in the third, make 1. Continue like this all around, 2 2 1 2 2 1, until you finish this row 13. I'll meet you at the end. I'm here at the end of row 13. I have a total of 50 half double crochets. Now to finish here, we're going to go on top of the first half double crochet and we're going to make a slip stitch. Now I've cut my blue yarn already. I'm now going to just continue with the white yarn to make the brim here. So here now, chain 1, and we're going to work front post and back post half double crochet. So beginning into this first half double crochet, which is the same one that we joined to, make a front post half double crochet. The next one, make a back post half double crochet, front post half double crochet into the next, back post half double crochet into the next, and so on. For this row 14, this is all we're going to do. Front post and back post half double crochets. Continue like this to the end of this row. I'll meet you at the end. I'm here at the end of row 14. This is where I did front post and back post half double crochets. I have 50 stitches. To finish, go on top of the first half double crochet and make a slip stitch. Now for row 15, we're going to repeat the same thing. So chain 1, and beginning with this first front post, make a front post half double crochet. Next one, back post half double crochet. Next one, front post half double crochet, and so on. For this row, we're just going to work these stitches exactly how they are. If it's a front post, make a front post. If it's a back post, then make a back post. Continue for row 15. I will meet you at the end. I finished making the last row. Here at the end, I just joined to the beginning with a slip stitch, cut my yarn and passed my yarn through this last loop, and this little hat is all done. And this is how it looks. Now, this little hat here is for 0 to 3 months, and I used a total of 25 grams, 15 grams in white and about 10 grams in blue. You're going to need less or more depending on the size that you make. Remember that you can make this from a newborn size and up to an adult size using the measurements that I gave you at the beginning of the video. As you can also see, I went ahead and attached the pom-pom. In the information box, I'll go ahead and leave you the link to how I make my pom-poms. Here's the other one. So now let's try it on my little model here. Now, her head circumference here is for 0 to 3 months. So let's see how this fits. Perfect. It's absolutely beautiful. Here's the little bean stitch baby hat. Like I said, I already have lots of tutorials using this stitch pattern, including this little cardigan sweater that I already showed you in my channel. In the information box below, I'll go ahead and leave you the link to this tutorial as well, and the other tutorials that I have where I have made little sweaters and pants and little sets using this same stitch pattern. And as always, if you prefer written pattern, check out my Etsy shop. I'll leave the link to my Etsy shop in the information box below. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, so this was today's tutorial. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.